Hello folks, welcome and welcome to those joining us live or on the recorded version of State of the City 2023 on Consolidated. My name is Carter Fong. I'm the Executive Director of the Dickinson Area Chamber of Commerce. We're here at Trinity High School. I would like to please welcome Jared Steffen of Brevera, our presenting sponsor.
He's a little taller than me, so I'm going to bring this down. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming. I was going to start off with a joke, but I was told that it had to be clean, so I'm going to move on. Brevera has been the presenting sponsor for the past 5 years since the inception of this event, and we can't be more than happy to be that for the last 5 years and hopefully for many more years to come. Thank you to Carter and everyone else at the Chamber. This event's great. It's a great town, it's a great community, it's a great place to live. I grew up just west of here by South Hart. I had to move away for 7 years and came back, and you probably don't know what you have until you move away and it's gone. So we do have something special here in Southwest North Dakota. It's a great community, it's a great place to live, it's a great place to raise a family. We're going to hear a lot of great speakers today here. I guess with that, that's probably it. That's all I got. So welcome, thank you. Enjoy the presentation. Thanks.
During my 2 years at the Chamber, our events have rotated among the area schools. Trinity is taking its turn in hosting this event. At this time, please welcome President of the Trinity Catholic Schools and member of the Chamber Board of Directors, Mario Scari.
Here, I thought that Jared did the good work for me of moving the microphone, but Carter had to say something about me. Thanks, Carter. Well, it is my pleasure on behalf of Trinity Catholic Schools to welcome all of you to the 2023 State of the City. Each year, as a member of our Government Relations Committee at the Chamber, I am fortunate to contribute to the planning and execution of this signature event for our community. We also take part in putting together other events. You heard about the Coffee with the Legislators from Carter, but we also put together the Southwest Night at the Legislature and candidate forums every year during election years. All of these efforts are designed to help us to provide a forum to promote open dialogue between government, business, education, and community. Efforts like this are so valuable to our Chamber membership in this vibrant city that we all call home. Dickinson has been home to our system of Catholic schools since the opening of our first Catholic school in 1904. And it is such a treat to be here with you today in our home for Titan Athletics. To think that we just finished out our last day of school yesterday, and today we get to break bread with over 225 of our closest friends and neighbors. 1 Corinthians says, "So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do everything for the glory of God." One thing that we say here at the start of each school day is that it's a great day to be a Titan, because every day we work together in service of our mission to educate the whole student, mind, body, and soul, as we strive toward our vision to awaken greatness. All of this is done for the glory of God. And even though today isn't a school day, that sentiment still rings true because of your presence here with us today. It is still a great day to be a Titan. Thank you for being here. Our system is a busy one. This spring alone, we have hosted the North Dakota Supreme Court, the regional speech tournament, where our own Trinity Titans won the regional championship, and longtime educator and coach Janelle Schiff was named Coach of the Year. In addition to that, we hosted the regional vocal competition, Optimist basketball tournament games, and the T4 Summit. All of this was in addition to our own school events, like the Fine Arts Wine and Dine, a theater production, multiple year-end concerts and banquets, all culminating to graduation, which happened last Sunday, where 31 of our Titan graduates joined the ranks of the over 4,500 Trinity alumni. And we also recognized 5 international exchange students who spent their year with us. And now we host the State of the City today. We feel very blessed by this abundance, no matter how busy it gets. And we're grateful to each of you for taking the time out of your workday to support this important event for our city and for our community as a whole. To help you get to know us I just wanted to share with you that we have over 700 students from early childhood through 12th grade. Trinity today is a system of 2 K-4 elementary schools, one each at St. Patrick's and St. Wenceslaus, known as Trinity Elementary East and Trinity Elementary West. These 2 schools combined accommodate about 60 students per grade. And the building where you all sit today houses Trinity Elementary North, which is our 5th and 6th grade, and our Trinity Junior High and High School. This building with 5th through 12th grade, we can accommodate up to 80 students per grade. Now, to free up needed classrooms in our growing elementary schools, very soon we will welcome all of our preschool students to our newest facility, the Joseph J. Wagner Building for Early Childhood Education. That's situated just outside of here, northeast of us, between us and the parish of Queen of Peace. This building will allow us to provide early childhood programs for up to 144 children this year. And it includes room for additional programming next year. And it's already looking like we're going to need that space because all of our full-day kindergarten readiness classes are full with a waiting list for the upcoming school year. And the same is true of our new EduCare program for 3-year-olds. We're already full with a waiting list. The only vacancies that we do have are for preschool half-day programs. So our 2-day, 3-day, and 5-day half-day does have availability. So if you do know of families who are seeking preschool options like that, please have them call us. So with the new building, I also want to share with you that the 2nd floor has been completed for future elementary growth that will consist of a single section elementary school K through 4. That will effectively right-size our facilities so that we can accommodate 80 students per grade K through 4 between what will be 3 elementary buildings, and that mirrors the amount of students we can accommodate 5 through 12. So 80 students per grade all the way through from early childhood to graduation is our goal. But we're excited to share one thing with you today, and you're the first large group to hear this, but we expect to break ground on phase 2 of this important project in coming weeks. Phase 2 includes the additional spaces necessary for us to use that building for elementary, and that mainly means we're adding a cafeteria and a gymnasium. With generous support of our Faith in Our Future capital campaign, we were able to include in this phase a full-size athletic court that will support not only PE classes for elementary, but also house our after-school programs like our 5th and 6th grade volleyball programs where we use the armory and we bus students to practice each day. We'll also be able to use this space for junior high and JV or sub-varsity practices and games. And the addition of this space is really a game changer for our students and for their families, because we'll be able to provide more accommodating practice and game schedules so that they can have more quality time at home with their families and for their studies. In addition, as a host site for numerous youth athletic tournaments and with a very likely need for scheduling efficiencies with our own move to Class A basketball for the upcoming season, we anticipate that this auxiliary gym will be of good benefit to our community by helping us to attract more tournaments and teams to come and stay and play in Dickinson. While we have reached this the fundraising milestone, this, yuck, are you guys getting that too? All the smoke in the air, I could get too dry. Thank you, sorry. So we've reached the milestone necessary for us to break ground on this important project, and we're still looking at some needs to help us get across the finish line, however. The total phase 1, so the building that's essentially complete, and phase 2, which will be completed, total cost is about $16 million. We've made some great strides, and we only have about $2.5 million left to raise, and we'll be fully fundraised for the project. With many naming opportunities available and matching dollars still on the table, we hope to reach our goal very soon. And so if you'd like a sneak peek of this building, I'm happy to announce that today you can take part in a tour and we'll show off the place and let you ask questions if you have them. But if you can't make it today, don't worry. We are scheduled to host the chamber after hours on June 13th at the Wagner Building. So please mark your calendars. If I see you take out your phone, I'll assume that's what you're doing, is just marking your calendar. But now, Mayor Scott Decker is a native of Dickinson and a graduate of Trinity High School and Dickinson State University. He has a master's degree in natural resources and energy law from the University of Oklahoma. Mayor Decker served 21 years in the U.S. Army and in the North Dakota Army National Guard, and was deployed in 1990 in support of Operation Desert Shield and Desert Storm, returning in 1991. After returning to Dickinson in 2000, he became the full-time recruiter for the North Dakota Army National Guard until his retirement in 2010. At that time, he went on to work in the Bakken, first as a right-of-way agent for Diamond Resources, and later as a safety trainer. Currently, he is the Compliance and Safety Officer for ND Pharmacy. Mayor Decker was first elected Dickinson City Commissioner in 2014. He was elected mayor in 2016 and re-elected mayor in 2020. Scott and his wife Shelley have 2 children, Jake and Elena. Please welcome Mayor Scott Decker.
Thank you, Maria. And a big thank you goes out to Trinity High School and its staff for hosting this event, and the Chamber for coordinating all of the assets that are needed to pull off this event and make it such a great gathering every year. Each year, the State of the City, we strive to highlight one of our many great businesses, facilities, or schools. And standing here in Trinity is somewhat surreal because 38 years ago, I crossed the auditorium stage during graduation with no idea what the future held for me or what I would be doing. And judging by some of the emails and calls I get at City Hall, I think some of you still think I don't know what I'm doing. Nevertheless, I'm honored to stand here before you today to proclaim the state of the city of Dickinson as strong, and our future grows brighter every day. This is not to say we do not have challenges, as does every entity in Southwest North Dakota and across the nation. We are challenged every day to provide top-notch services to our citizens, and like many businesses in the region, recruit and retain individuals to complete our dedicated workforce. I would like to take a brief moment and recognize the city team, which is comprised of our dedicated civil servants and our department leadership and our elected commissioners. So if you just want to give a quick wave, let them know where you're sitting, city employees and commissioners, and we'll get a big round of applause for everybody. I could not do this job without their knowledge and their devotion to our great city. In dedication, motivation, and pride, that's what we as leaders always hope to install and inspire in our workforce. 34 years ago, I began my journey that would forever change my life in April of 1989. I began my service to this great nation into the United States Army in April. Last week, my wife and I traveled to where it all began, to Fort Benning on its very last day. And the last day it would be named that. It felt like I would never left. Sure, there was new buildings, new amenities, things had changed, but it still felt like my second home. And it felt very comfortable. There, 34 years ago, my motivation was high. Everyone's motivation in Charlie Company, 138th Infantry, was high. Now, we had a little encouragement from drill sergeants every day, so we were able to focus on that single purpose, the defense of a great nation. And we left it on the table every day. And every night when we went, crawled into our bunks, the tanks were empty. At 1900, 2100, whenever they let us get a good night's sleep, 7 o'clock or 9 o'clock for you civilians, we left it all out on the training field. That is something we are challenged with every day. And how do we as leaders motivate everyone to forget their egos, forget self-interest, and leave it on the table every day? That the tank is empty when you call it a day. Our hopes as a commission is that we provide the right tools and guidance to afford everyone that is working for the city the opportunity to excel at their position, and that we craft rules and regulations that benefit everyone living within the city and the surrounding area so that they may fulfill their goals. And with that being said, I am honored to present the state of the city. These are just some of the general topics that we will be covering. And the first up will be the financial update. Included this year, we included 2022 revenues as a total. I wanted to have this in here to show what the city collects in total revenue, be it from oil impact, property tax, sales tax, state aid, or fines, fees, licenses, and services. Next slide. This here is the percentage of where all those revenue sources fall. As you can see, the largest is our oil impact, followed by our sales tax. Next is state aid, followed by property tax, and that was for 2022. For 2023, we again conservatively budgeted to meet the needs of the city. And as you can see, the numbers are very similar as to 2022. Go ahead to the next slide. There's a slight change in the amount that we are anticipating from oil, about a 5% decrease, and the sales tax, we're being conservative, will be roughly the same, about 25% of our budget in our revenue that we take on. Next slide. As you can see, since I have been on in this position as the mayor, we have been very consistent in what we have asked from the citizens of Dickinson and the business owners in property tax. As you can see, the last 6 years, we have been right at $5.7 million. And this is a quick breakdown of where all the mills that are collected and how they are divided up between the taxing entities within the city. This is our principal balance of debt. A lot of people are interested in what we have for debt. And as you can see, we try to lower that amount by about $3 to $5 million a year. Now, you will see the last graph that the leases have gone up. We have aging vehicles, equipment that we need to service the city, so we're taking out a few more leases. But you'll also see that the West River Community Center, the bond, is getting really low, and that will be paid off within the coming years, in the following years. This is one of the most exciting things that I think that are going to happen to Dickinson in a long time. We have, last year we had the announcement with the CTE. You had the softball complex. Well, this Dickinson Legacy Square is a total effort between the citizens of Dickinson and the city commission and the hard work from our city employees. And we're looking forward to the grand opening on Saturday, June 24th. As you can see, for some of you children of the 80s, we're going to lead off with Ron Keel on the grand opening weekend. Some of you are thinking to yourself, who is Ron Keel? Well, he bills himself as the heavy metal cowboy now, but he was the lead singer of a band named Keel back in the 80s. They had a few minor hits. Look them up. It's very interesting. But the whole lineup this year is very exciting. As you look through the lineup, we have a little bit of something for everyone. And I've heard a lot of people are excited about the REO tribute band. There's a couple of other local acts that'll really head up the night. And then going into when we have Cat Perkins, the Church of Cash, I've heard a lot of people are excited for them. And then to top off the national acts at the end of the year, we're going to have Tiger Lily Gold here. So it's excited to have them here. And then the final act in September, we'll have a live concert with a lot of Christian groups, be it professional or amateur. So a lot of people are excited for the different lineup. Another thing that I'm excited to announce is, as I spoke to you last year about the Dickinson Readiness Center, the money has come through be it the Fed or by state officials. And they are advertising currently. The bids close June 6th. The bid opening will be June 7th, and they expect construction to start at the end of June, early July on our brand-new readiness center. They expect completion to be done by June or July of 2025, and the location, for those of you that are wondering where it's going to be at, it'll be out as you go out to our Baylor building. There's an old Baker Hughes building that sits there. I don't know if Baker Hughes is in it, but beside that is the motor pool currently for our soldiers. That is where this will be constructed. And I am still working on, as I announced last year, I had submitted John Feddick, a soldier that had died, that was from the Dickinson unit, and he had volunteered to go with another unit, and he ended up losing his life in Iraq. And I had submitted his paperwork. We're still going through the hurdles to see if we can get it named after John Feddick. So, but I'm really excited, and I know our soldiers are, and I hope the community is excited that the Dickinson Readiness Center will begin its construction very soon. Moving next, some of you may have heard that we have a paleontologist that likes to find dinosaurs. So we are running out of room. So we right now are proposing to look at the expansion of our dinosaur museum. Now that's going to take a little bit of jostling around to figure out what we need. We know we need a bigger gallery. We know we need a bigger laboratory. And now being a federal repository, we need to have the assets in place to we can store the specimens in a proper way. Planned by the museum staff to have a living collection to feature modern descendants of dinosaurs that are still in native North Dakota, which be it a lizard or bird species. And then the original space will probably be reworked to include our Pioneer Machinery Hall and some of the other historical things. And we're hoping to have enough space there that we can have a gathering there also of this size for the community. The airport terminal. I know I have some airport staff sitting here and they're probably nervous, but we are working on a new terminal. And we have been sitting in discussion, Commissioner Bear and I and the staff and some county officials. We went through a meeting a couple weeks ago to see what would be the most viable option. And at that time, we decided that trying to refurb a existing terminal while there's passengers trying to get to our great city is probably not feasible. So what we're really looking at is a greenfield new project with a new standalone terminal, and it will be a great asset to the Dickinson Theodore Roosevelt Regional Airport. So more information coming. And then another update that city staff has been working hard on is the Patterson Lake. And we're looking to clean up the water, clean up Patterson Lake as a whole. We're working with our federal delegation, Senator Hoeven, Senator Kramer, to try to get this lake to be once again a top-notch fishery and recreation. We're working with state departments and game and fish officials and Park and Rec to make sure that we're doing this right. There's a lot of hoops sometimes you got to jump through. We own the land, or I should say Park and Rec owns the land around the lake, but the feds still own the water. So there's a lot of things that we have to do. So looking forward to that. And then we have some ongoing city projects. As you can see here, our mausoleum should be completed. The expansion should be completed this summer. And the niches and the columbarium should be up for purchase, as is in the next slide. We are doing an expansion to the Dickinson South Cemetery, which is located across from St. Joe's Cemetery to the east. The construction on that site will begin this summer and hopefully be completed, with some plots being able for people to purchase them. And then we're also looking at the State Avenue Mill and Overlay and Water Replacement Project that'll be happening this summer. And then you're going to see a lot of work on the West Business Loop. And the West Business Loop is going to be reconstructed in the coming years to mirror much like the East Business Loop, with the lighting, the wide roads, and then we're going to add our first roundabout to Dickinson, the connector from the West Business Loop and Old Highway 10. So that'll take that troublesome intersection out of play. So our future is very bright, but it will come with challenges and obstacles. Yet I know we are a resilient and very hardworking community, and we will continue to strive for excellence beyond what others think we can accomplish. You know, I told you that my wife and I were at Fort Benning on its last day, but we were also there on Fort Moore's first day. The signs all changed overnight, but the pride was still there. As I toured the Infantry Museum on that day, the name changed there, and there was some longing for the old, but just as much pride was in the new. And soldiers that served with Hal Moore in Vietnam made their way slowly across the fort, be it from age or from war wounds. Yet their chests were filled with pride, knowing they left it on the table and emptied the tank and had no regrets, living a life worth remembering. And signs and logos in Dickinson will change, buildings will rise and fall, amenities will come and go, but for many of us, dare I say all of us, the Queen City on the western edge will always be our home. So God bless you all. God bless Dickinson, the great state of North Dakota, and the greatest nation on the planet, United States of America. Thank you.
Well, our next speaker is very excited to address you, so he said, please be brief in my introduction. So I just want to let you know that Ron Ness is here with the North Dakota Petroleum Council, and his primary function is governmental relations in North Dakota, and he serves as the industry spokesman, managing an association of more than 600 companies involved in all aspects of the state's oil and gas industry. Ron and his wife Becky reside in Bismarck, and he is looking forward to providing you with an update today, and I hope we'll still have time for some questions. Please welcome, here's Ron, Ron Ness.
I'm ready, let's go. Carter and Maria, thank you very much for the invite. It's great to be here today. Over the last month, since near the end of the session, I've been in Houston, Salt Lake, and last week I was in Washington, and I got to spend a little bit of time with Congressman Armstrong, but he is extremely, extremely busy. And when you move to the majority, it is just amazing how busy Kelly is. I used to talk to him just about every day, and now sometimes I get a little snippet in between his time at the airport. So he's doing great, though, and just an absolute champion for our state and, of course, Dickinson, North Dakota. I want to just thank the mayor for those comments, because as I've been to those various places across the country, and this week I've been in Western North Dakota. I spent a couple days in Watford City and now here, and we truly live in a great place, and we've got great opportunities, and I think we should feel blessed, because the challenges that you see in those other big cities and across this country are immense, and our challenges are minuscule in nature, because we've got good people and good spirit and great fortune. So I'm gonna whip through slides, because I generally do not like to have too many slides, but there are just a few things that I think, as we've traveled around, and I had dinner last week with Daniel Yergin. If you know Daniel Yergin, he's the great award-winning writer about The Economist of Oil and Gas, and he's just issued out a new book, and it starts a little bit with Williston Basin and the Bakken, and how we really cracked the code for oil shale, and how it's changed the world. And my message to him, with Harold Hamm sitting next to me, was that, trust me, the Bakken is not in decline. North Dakota's oil and gas industry is strong. Despite COVID, despite what we've lived through, we're still at 1.1 million barrels a day. Great oil fields just get better, and I'm here to tell you that's going to happen in North Dakota. And you'll know why that's important in a few minutes as we click through. So our legislative agenda this session, we had a fantastic session, actually. We've got Representative Vicki Steiner in the room. Please welcome Vicki. And you know, it's really not easy to replace a Senate Majority Leader like Rich Wardner, who I'm almost not being in this room for the first time if he's not here, but it's a little bit weird. And I think all of us that have great impacts in Western North Dakota and across North Dakota were pretty concerned about how the West would do. But the ability to get a Dickinson representative elected to the leadership position in the House, Representative Mike LaFour did an outstanding job. Mike, please stand and be acknowledged, because if you think you've got a tough job, live in Mike's shoes for 75 days and get the House through with all of those new people. It was a tough job, and Mike did an outstanding job. So thanks, Mike. We focused our legislative agenda this session on really looking forward. And how do we ensure that the Bakken's in a place that it can continue to thrive, and our oil and gas industry as a whole? Non-Bakken wells in North Dakota, we're down to about, I think it's about 3% of our industry is non-Bakken. And of course, we're standing above the lodgepole mounds of the 1990s that still today are very, very productive. And we want to ensure that continues on for decades and decades to come, which I'm confident that is going to happen. So tax reform, not only for all North Dakotans, but eliminating the high tax trigger to allow us to ramp up activity when oil gets over $100 a barrel versus paying basically a penalty on a 20% tax increase with a high oil tax trigger. The legislature got rid of that trigger, and last year, when oil prices right now were over $100 a barrel, we did not see the bump in activity and investment that I had hoped we had. The legislature heard that message and eliminated that tax trigger. And we also set a few things in place for enhanced oil recovery, which as this oil play goes forward, that is really truly the future of our industry. And with the best technology in the world over the past 18 years, out of every 100 barrels of oil in the ground in the Bakken, we're still leaving 84 to 86 of them in the ground. Think of that opportunity. If the business climate is right, the investment climate is right, our federal government stays the heck out of our business and quits trying to put us out of business. They are good for prices, though. We are going to continue to attract the investment that's going to crack the technology to make that happen. So those were the areas that we really focused on. There weren't a lot of big bills. The other thing was on emissions. And I'll tell you, visiting with all of the CEOs across the oil and gas industry, I believe today we have the cleanest barrel of oil in the world, but the goal is basically to make a Bakken pad zero emissions. I call it a Bakken zero pad. So we got some money put into some grant programs through the Clean Sustainable Energy and the Oil and Gas Research Council that will provide research fund dollars to help innovate on those well sites and how you capture emissions off tailpipes, off trucks. That's what we're down to. Electric rigs, because of the emission reductions. The industry is continually being pressed and pressed and pressed, not only to be obviously less reduced emissions, but now it's part of their investment ability to attract investment. And beyond that, I think that we can make it an advantage in North Dakota. We know that the world wants a cleaner burning fuel. I don't think they're going to find a better burning fuel than coal, oil, and natural gas, but I think as a state, we have the ability with our nimbleness to really go after and try to make our fossil fuels industries the cleanest in the world, which will attract the money, which will allow us to grow and prosper and produce these fuels forever and ever. Carter's going pretty fast. I want to go fast, Carter, but not quite that fast. So I wanted to put a few of these slides up because I hear this across North Dakota. And, you know, the oil and gas industry is in decline, blah, 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 blah. We're still a $43 billion industry. 2005, we were a $3 billion industry that employed 3,500 people. Today, we're a $42 billion industry, obviously off the charts in terms of economic growth in North Dakota. We'll just clip through a couple of these. We still have 49,000 jobs, 50,000 jobs that the industry represents. That number was about 74,000 in 2015, 2016. Obviously, you look at the number of trucks on the road today versus then. You look at the pipeline infrastructure today versus then. You look at what it took for a drilling rig that started out in the pre-Bakken. It took 43 days to drill a well. 9 to 12 today, very common. So huge job economy. and we pay over half the taxes collected by the state of North Dakota. So these are economic drivers that helps fundamentally support the city of Dickinson and those oil impact funds that the mayor was talking about. Next slide, please. This slide was produced by the oil and gas producing counties in partnership with the Petroleum Council, and I think it's maybe one of the most important pieces that we've put together, because it showed North Dakotans everywhere how they benefit from oil and gas. And I would hear that all over the state of North Dakota from legislators saying, well, I'm from Cavalier, I really can't support the oil and gas industry on this particular bill. Or I'm from Fargo. This shows where the money goes, whether it's through water projects, education projects, property tax relief, the Outdoor Heritage Fund, all of the other funding mechanisms. And you can see Cass County down there, which I believe there's about 36 legislators who have one foot in Cass County. Cass County has done just fine. And they got a couple $2 billion water project that's very, very important to all of us to ensure that the dollars can still continue to flow back to western North Dakota, because we simply don't have the votes of the rest of the state. Next slide, please. So this is a slide I want you to target that. This is pre-COVID. 59,000 jobs in the industry. Go to the next slide, then come back. Today, actually 2 years ago, our data is always a little lapsed through job service and other sources. We lost 10,000 workers in the Bakken pre-COVID to post-COVID. And I suspect that we've recovered a little bit of this. But I will just say, today we are doing absolutely just as much. Neighbors drilled just as many feet of well bore in 2022 as they did in 2018. Our technology, our ability to use 2 miles down and now 3 miles out. I believe Cord Energy the Industrial Commission just permitted a well where they're going to go 2 miles down and 4 miles out. Reduced your environmental input, improved your well economics, still one drilling rig, doing what previously 2 or 3 drilling rigs were going to do. So technology is really the key. And one of the messages that we have to drive is that the investment world and the markets are not valuing growth like they were in 2012, 13, and 14, where oil production and oil operators wanted to increase their production rapidly because that added value to their company and their stock. Today, it's all about the efficiency. It's all about the return to the shareholder. So flat to 1% to 2% growth is what you will hear virtually every company CEO talk about, whether they're in Wall Street or whether they're in the boardroom or whether I'm visiting with them. So I believe that's what we're going to see in North Dakota's oil and gas industry. And if we can continue on that trend, as a lifelong North Dakotan, I think we're better off producing 1.2 to 1.4 million barrels a day for the next 15 to 25 years. If we do it for 10 years, then technology will take us to a whole nother level of what we're going to see today. So the goal that I have stated for the state should be, let's keep our production above a 1.1 or 1 million barrels a day. That adequately funds government, it adequately funds property tax, income tax, keeps our costs down as North Dakotans, but is very, very important. But this challenge is getting more and more difficult, and I'll explain that why. So slip ahead a couple of slides there. So I don't think there's a business in here or a business anywhere I go in North Dakota where workforce is just simply not something that's a 1 or 2 issue in the terms of the challenges that are facing us. The legislature had many, many bills this session, many, many opportunities this session. The Senate created a workforce committee just to focus on workforce challenges. But when you think, if you're a small business in North Dakota or any business in North Dakota, you think that there are 42 jobs for, 42 workers for every 100 jobs out there. Wow. Those math numbers weren't here in 1988 when I graduated from NDSU and was one of the very fortunate members of my friends at North Dakota State University that were able to find a job and a career in North Dakota. So these are staggering numbers. The unemployment participation rate is declined since COVID, and there's just something that's changed with the new workers that are coming out every day. We spent 6 hours at Hess in Houston a number of weeks ago with the largest contractors for Hess, just talking about workforce recruitment, retention, and we could have stayed there for days. And it's simply amazing, what the large companies are talking about in terms of their challenges of recruiting and retaining. And we'll get to a few of those in a minute. But at the end of the day, all of those legislative ideas, our companies are still poaching from one another, or employees are choosing to come and leave. And we got to find something that's different. Next slide, please. We run a one basin, one way new employee orientation program. We train almost 400 employees a week. This is year 4. We've trained, I think we're going to reach 62,000 employees that we've trained over 4 years sometime in July. A certain workover rig company in North Dakota has a turnover rate of 74 to 78%. Your typical oil and gas service contractor in North Dakota, 34 to 36% turnover. At some point, you're not even a working company. You're just a hiring firm. So the issues that go along with that, with safety and all of those things are incredible. And we're focusing on safety. Companies are so focused on safety today, yet our workers' compensation rates continue to go down because we've become a safer. But you'll talk to just about any company, they'll get 100 applicants. Drug testing, this, that, and the other thing, you'll end up with maybe a dozen. You'll hire 7 on Thursday. They're supposed to start work on Monday. 5 show up. Out of the 5, 6 months later, you've got 2 out of 100. That's tough for any business to continue to operate that way. Next slide, please. So as an organization and an industry, we've been huge supporters of all things education, our scholarship programs, the T4 summits that we're holding, trying to ensure that all North Dakotans have every opportunity to know that there are great jobs and great careers in the state of North Dakota. We greatly support the skills centers that are being developed with the schools in partnership, but at the end of the day, we are not going to be able to grow enough North Dakotans to feed the industries that are so vital to our state, let alone the critical hospitality and other industries that are so essential to supporting the opportunities in the business. And if you look at some of the businesses potentially coming to Dickinson area, Marathon Petroleum is extremely excited about what's going on out at their facilities west of town. But when you start talking about large value-added opportunities and hundreds of employees, it is going to be a struggle. So we looked at all of this, and I did a bunch of interviews after that, testifying before that committee. And next slide, please. We recognize that we need to immigrate more people like my ancestors came from Norway for opportunity a long, long time ago. And as this kind of fell in place, we recognized that something's got to change. We can't keep stealing off each other's employees. So our board of directors decided that we were going to take a pretty bold move. We went out and we hired the former Lieutenant Governor, Brent Sanford, to run a program that we now call Bach and Grow. And we are, this contact that reached out to me informed us about this Uniting for Ukraine program. This is a very unique immigration type program that was implemented by the Biden administration as part of the support for the Ukrainian war. Typically, immigration, you have to wait 6 months to go to work. Ukrainians who come here under this program and are sponsored can go to work on day 1. If they had a driver's license from where they're coming from, they can get a driver's license in North Dakota on day 1. There are 7 million Ukrainians that have fled Ukraine. They are somewhere in Europe. Of course, we have an incredible Ukrainian culture in Western North Dakota. Our number one point for this is going to be Dickinson area. We've worked with Carter and the chambers across Dickinson, Minot, Williston, Watford City, and I'll go through a few of those findings. But there are 40 million Ukrainians in Ukraine. It's a 2 million person army. If you've been in the military before, you've got 3 children or more, you're exempt from service. Their businesses have been destroyed. Their livelihoods have been destroyed. These people are hungry for work. They are hungry for an opportunity. North Dakota is much like Ukraine in terms of our weather, our conditions. And we think this is the one thing that rises above everything else. The North Dakota legislature created an Office of Immigration, put some funding in that, put a couple of staff members in this. Brent Sanford and myself and 3 of my staff members have pretty much been working on this nonstop for 2.5 months. The phones ring constantly from people across the country. The New York Times ran a story on this. Now we've got Ukrainians from across North America saying, hey, we're here. We can come to North Dakota and work. Or 500 Ukrainians working in Alaska in the fish cleaning business. That was kind of our entry point to this. Some working in the oil and gas industry in Alaska. So we're targeting, in our pilot project, we're targeting 25 here by June. We've identified and located sponsors. And I don't know, is Glenn Bronco here today? I didn't see him. Glenn Bronco has become our champion in this program. Of course, Glenn has a Ukrainian heritage. Glenn is up for taking as many of these Ukrainian members in. He and his family are sponsoring. The hardest part about this program is you need an American sponsor that basically just sponsors them and says, you know what, I've got their back if they need it. But really the job is what they need. So the obligation of the sponsor is we're using the community support plans, which I'll hit in a minute, to provide this. Information on this can be found on our website, but I really truly believe that we're targeting 25 by July, 100 by year end, 400 a year from now. And if we crack the code in this, trust me, every other industry is going to be looking. There are companies in North Dakota doing this already, but on a smaller scale. When we did it, we kind of blew the lid off it a little bit, but our phone rings and rings and rings with our members asking how can we support and engage in this program, because Ukrainian does not have a drug culture. They are very loyal workers, they're hard workers, and like I said, the first question they're asking is how much overtime can I get? Those are traits we are just not finding in America's workforce today. And they will help hopefully raise the level of all employment as we know that our ancestors did. So we are not wanting, in the Petroleum Council, I'm not wanting us to be an employment firm and an immigration center. We are hoping this will transcend to the communities as we roll through this. And we want to crack the code, and we want to hand it off to communities, because I think in order to grow the Dickinson economy and the economy of the area, something has to change. And as we do this and we get national and worldwide exposure, we find out there are 1,000 Kurds in cities like Nashville and Memphis and other places who are legally in the United States. These are documented legal individuals that came legally through the immigration process. And despite our illegal immigration numbers going up in this country, our legal immigration numbers have plummeted. So we've got room and capacity, but there are workers across this country that are underemployed from other foreign countries that are here legally, that we think that we're going to move into those opportunities going forward. And we already have Watford City, and I don't know what you have in Dickinson, but Watford City has 250 kids in their English second language course today. Just think about that, right, Father? 250 kids in the Watford City School District that are taking English as a second language course. I've got members that have 65% Hispanic employment base already. So to think that we are not a melting pot of the world today is absolutely wrong. We are doing this company by company. We are trying to do it from an industry standpoint, because this really kicked off to me and got me rolling on this. I've got major Bakken operators saying, I'm concerned that I'm not going to be able to deploy my CapEx in North Dakota over the next 3 to 10 years because of our lack of workers. Now, you want to talk about challenges to the growth of the oil and gas industry and something that will drive investment elsewhere. I can't drill my wells because I can't get enough people to work on a drilling rig, a completion crew, a well pad construction crew. I can't find enough engineers, et cetera, et cetera. Those things are extremely impactful to the North Dakota economy and really the future of our ability to produce more than 1 million barrels of oil a day. So, community support plan. Carter has been forefront in this, and all of the chamber executives have really stepped forward. And these people are coming here. The single biggest challenge we have is we're just unsure about the English ability to translate safety in the workplace. And we're finding Ukrainian Americans in this particular part of the state who are going to go to work for us as interpreters, ultimately supported by the companies, but we have to ensure that they understand the safety of the workplace, and I think that's a big risk. So what I'm finding is that it's the smaller North Dakota-based companies that are truly having a hard time recruiting. The large international service companies can recruit people. The challenge is retaining them. And part of those challenges of retaining them, as we talked about at HES that day, community engagement, community support, community activities, quality schools. These are the things that they're hearing from people and why they should come. Air transportation, Mr. Mayor, the ability to travel across and the cost that it costs to travel if you're an individual or you're bringing your family here to go back and see family elsewhere in the country. One of the main reasons families decide to leave that have relocated here, it's just too hard to travel back to see the rest of my family somewhere. Too costly, not enough options. So air transportation in our western communities is extremely, extremely important. So these are different issues for us somewhat, but ones that we think we have to tackle. And as I said, the employers are stepping up, the communities are stepping up, and I think it's a tremendous opportunity for us to find an opportunity of glimmer of hope out there to address this big challenge that we have. We're looking at second chance hiring in North Dakota. We're looking at all of these things. And as I said, we are just one of every industry that I think has this challenge. So we encourage you to help work with us and to do this as a state and as a region and as a community, because we think it's critical to growing and be able to do what we continue to do. So with that, I think that is the end of my slide. I do want to just say we've got a number of big events going on out in this part of the country. Our Cook Fest this year, our very first Cook Fest was, I believe, in 2010, something like that, in Killdeer. And I've never gone back to another community with Cook Fest, but we're going back to Killdeer. In July, we're going to do one Cook Fest this year. It's going to be a big event. We invite you up to that. And we've got our big fishing derby for conservation and habitat the day following. I know we still have some space for boats in that. And maybe the next slide is the one that the Williston Basin Petroleum Conference. So we put that on hold this past year, but a year from now, we're going to be having that event, and it is going to be a world-class event. We're going to bring the speakers across the world, and hopefully we'll have some presidential nominees, maybe our own governor. Maybe it'll be really easy. We'll just have our own governor come and speak. So, but it's going to be a big show, and we invite Dickinson and the economic region to take a big part in that, because I think it's really, really important. So with that, I believe I've got like 2 minutes for questions.
Yeah, I've got a couple. They'll come from me, and I'm going to lobby a softball at the end, okay? First question comes from Representative Vicky Steiner, District 37. It boils down to this. What will be the ramifications for the Bakken, depending on whether a suitable route is found for the carbon capture pipeline?
Well, just happened to be sitting by Jeff Scary, and you know, that issue has gotten to be more about politics than it is about real policy and regulation, and I think there's a lot of strong feelings and opinions. Our ability to grow the Bakken in the future is going to be dependent on rich natural gas and the ability to unitize these fields and ultimately put enhanced soil recovery into the ground utilizing CO2. And there's not, frankly, just not enough CO2 from our coal plants, from our ethanol plants in North Dakota. So ultimately down the road, I think it's a huge opportunity. And when you look at the lodgepole fields underneath the city of Dickinson, you now have CO2 in the ground at Red Trail Energy. You have Denbury Resources, CO2 in the ground in Bowman County, supercharging up the Cedar Hills oil field, which just 15 years ago was 40% of our state's oil production. So I think it is a big deal. It's a big opportunity. You know, these challenges we've seen before on pipelines, and so, but ultimately I think it happens. We are all being forced that way. And if you want a coal industry in North Dakota, and you want an ethanol industry that can compete across the world and have an advantage, we have to go the way the world is going, whether we like it or not. Sometimes we happen to have the geology and the opportunity here, so I certainly support it. I think it's a good thing, and individual leases and those things have to be worked out, just like we've been doing that in the oil and gas industry for decades and decades. Next question. 1 minute.
Yes. Are you seeing conventional oil plays like Lodgepole and Mission Canyon coming back online?
Great question. I think there's great opportunity, and one of those bills that you saw up there was the ability to extend a declining well for 12 years. Because what we're seeing is a lot of the large Bakken operators, you get a well that's in decline, and it's easier just to plug it than carry it as a liability on your balance sheet and have the Industrial Commission pushing you to basically plug and abandon those wells. We plugged $1 billion worth of Bakken wells in the last year and a half. That's $1 billion of storefronts. That's our ability in the future to go back into those wells. And what will happen, like you see in Kansas, Kansas oil and gas industry is huge. They produce 83,000 barrels a day. We produce that before 4 in the morning. But small, regional, local companies own and operate those wells and employ tens and thousands of Kansans. That's what will transpire in North Dakota 3, 4, 5 decades from now. So keeping those old well bores intact, that's where you got to put your CO2. So that was a big piece of legislation. Prime sponsor was Jeremy Olson, a freshman out of Watford City. So thank you very much.
Quickly, anything further from Allison Engstrom, the Dickinson Press, anything further to elaborate on community support needed for the Ukrainian workers, or do you feel like you've covered that pretty well?
We can't do this without sponsors. In Minot, they've reached out. They've told the Minot area service contracting companies, you hire them. We're going to go out to the service clubs, and we're going to find individuals who want to sponsor and be part of something just like any of our ancestors would have been sponsored. That is very helpful. You're very fortunate in this region to have a great Ukrainian heritage here. And so we need to leverage up service groups, churches, and others, because as an employer, we really don't want the employers sponsoring. This is a humanitarian program. We are offering work. They need us, we need them. So the ability to find sponsors in the Dickinson community, we've got the employers ready to go, but we need help and support. And Brent Sanford answers questions all day, every day. So reach out to him and my staff, and we will get you lined up. But that is really the key issue.
And your softball question from Consolidated, 10 seconds. When you were in your 20s, what was it like having Ron Rhodes as a roommate in Bismarck?
Oh, Ronnie Rhodes was a piece of work. So, right, Ronnie? He's the cameraman back there. He was always a cameraman. So,
let's thank Mr. Ron Ness for his time today. And we'll call on Maria from Trinity to close us out today.
All right, well, thanks everyone again for being here with us, and thank you for your patience as we made our way through lunch. I hope you all feel satisfied with the meal you had today, and if it gave you proper energy to enjoy a tour after we wrap up today, we will be meeting on the red T right outside of these doors by door 10 where you came in, and we'll have a group able to walk over to the Early Childhood Center for tours there. If you prefer to drive your vehicle to get a closer parking space to the building, you can certainly do that and then just walk right up to it. If you prefer, you can even park over on the Queen of Peace side and come through the fence to the front door. We're also asked if we'd be doing tours of this building, and that's really exciting for us because I guess we just didn't realize how many haven't seen Trinity since it's become the Trinity of today. And so we will meet same place for those of you who would like to tour this building. We'll make someone available to walk you through our facility here as well. But at the end of the day, on behalf of the Chamber and Trinity both, I want to thank you again for attending the State of the City 2023. I hope to see you all again next year, maybe in that new gym we'll have across the way. We'll see. But if you have questions, certainly let us know. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your week.